All right, we'll start. Sound check, good? All right, my name is Mike Cranston, the Chief of Police of the Bend Police Department. Thank you for coming here today and sharing this information with our community. First, before I introduce Sheila Miller, our communications manager, I just want to say that my deepest sympathies go out with the victims of last night's shooting, as well as to our community who regularly shares peace and safety in our community. And that perception of safety and peace was shattered last night, and we will work to rebuild that as a community. I'm going to introduce Sheila Miller, our communications manager at this point.
Thank you all for being here today. My name is Sheila Miller, S-H-E-I-L-A-M-I-L-L-E-R. I am the communications manager for the Bend Police Department. With me today are Bend PD Chief Mike Krantz, Deschutes County Sheriff Shane Nelson, Deschutes County District Attorney John Hummel, as well as Mayor Pro Tem Anthony Broadman. Our FBI Special Agent in Charge Kieran Ramsey and City Manager Eric King are also here. I'm going to begin today with a recap of the information that Chief Krantz shared last night, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, and then I will share new information from our investigation. After that, we will hear from Mayor Pro Tem Broadman, and after that, we will happily answer a few questions. We'll ask you to raise your hand, and I'll call on you. And then shortly after this meeting, I will send out a press release with this information. So if you don't catch everything, be patient. I'll get it out to you. So, as discussed last night, at approximately 7:04 p.m. Sunday evening, Bend Police responded to multiple 911 calls reporting shots fired at the Forum Shopping Center in Northeast Bend. As officers responded, we had reports of at least one, possibly two active shooters. Our investigation has shown that the shooter entered from the Fox Hollow Apartments behind the Forum Shopping Center. The shooter moved through the parking lot from Costco on the west side, shooting rounds from an AR-15 style rifle. The shooter entered the west entrance of Safeway. Inside the entrance of Safeway, the shooter shot one person. That person was transported by medics, but is now deceased. The shooter continued through Safeway firing, then shot and killed a second person inside the store. As our officers responded, they entered Safeway while shots were still being fired. They found the apparent shooter dead inside Safeway. They found an AR-15 style rifle and a shotgun in close proximity to the shooter. Bend Police did not fire any shots at the scene. We had witnesses who believed there may be a second shooter. We have not found any evidence of that. Officers from every agency in Central Oregon, as well as the FBI, Bend Fire, and other agencies were on scene and assisting. We're very appreciative for that help. As we were responding, we received additional information about possible shots fired in the area of 9th and Reed Market, but those reports were investigated, and we have no evidence of additional shootings or of any other shooters last night. So here's some updated information I'd like to share with you, some new information. First of all, we've identified the two victims, and their next of kin have been notified. The first victim, who was shot near the entrance to the store, has been identified as a customer, Glenn Edward Bennett, an 84-year-old Bend resident. Our officers, as well as medics from Bend Fire and Rescue, attempted to perform life-saving measures at the scene. That person was transported but did not survive his injuries. The second victim, a Safeway employee, was shot near the rear of the store in the produce section. He has been identified as Donald Ray Surratt, Jr., a 66-year-old Bend resident. Surratt engaged with the shooter, attempted to disarm him, and may very well have prevented further deaths. Mr. Surratt acted heroically during this terrible incident. The families of the victims are asking for privacy at this time. We have also received reports of at least two people who suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The shooter is identified as 20-year-old Bend resident Ethan Blair Miller. We will identify him once by name, and that's it. We determined the shooter lived in the Fox Hollow Apartments, and we secured that area as well. Our officers were on scene within 2 to 3 minutes from the time that the first 911 call was dispatched, and we entered the store within 1 minute. When our officers arrived, they could hear gunshots in the Safeway, and they entered the store to confront the shooter while shots were still being fired. Our officers entered from both the front and the rear of the store in a solo entry. Our investigation shows that the shooter died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. From the time of first dispatch until officers advised the suspect was down was 4 minutes. Because we received initial reports that there may have been a second shooter, our officers ran down those leads. We did not find any evidence of a second shooter, and we believe there is no further threat to our community at this time. We also received multiple calls of shots fired in other parts of town. None of those were founded. Because of statements we learned from our suspected shooter, we also called the Oregon State Police Bomb Squad, who responded this morning at about 6:15 a.m. They cleared Safeway, as well as the shooter's apartment, and we asked 8 units of the Fox Hollow apartments to voluntarily evacuate. We alerted the Red Cross in case they needed assistance. We cleared all buildings in the entire shopping complex, as well as apartments in the area. We have served a search warrant at the shooter's apartment, as well as his vehicle. In the shooter's vehicle, we located 3 Molotov cocktails, as well as a sawed-off shotgun. We also located additional ammunition and digital devices, and those are currently being reviewed. Our officers secured this very large crime scene and worked throughout the night to process the scene. We have the Oregon State Police Crime Lab on scene, as well as officers and technicians who are conducting a 3D model scan of the area. We've collected video and other forensic evidence, and we expect our investigators to remain on scene throughout today and tomorrow. The entire parking lot is off limits to the public at this time, from the east side of Costco to the east side of Safeway. We are aware that the shooter may have posted information online regarding his plan. We're investigating this. We have no evidence of previous threats or prior knowledge of the shooter. We received information about the shooter's writings after the incident had taken place, and the shooter has no criminal history in the area. How the shooter accessed the firearms remains under investigation. We are partnering with the ATF to determine that information. Our officers have set up a tip line. So if you have information that you believe investigators need to know about this incident, we're asking you to call 541-322-6380. We will have 2 officers at Mix Drive near Ola and Postal Connections at the forum to return property that we've located at the scene inside the store. We also have a plan in place for those who've had to leave their cars at the scene. You can come to that location to retrieve your property, and mental health counselors will be on site at that location. Victims Assistance and Deschutes County Behavioral Health have set up a community support center at Pilot Butte Middle School from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. today and tomorrow. Anyone who would like to access these services can drop in on an as-needed basis. Victims Assistance has also established support through the Crime Victims Compensation Program for any person who was present at the scene or their next of kin. An application can be completed through Victims Assistance or directly through Crime Victims Compensation, and we will have links to that on the DA's website, and in a bit we will post that to the city's website as well. Finally, local community members have planned a community vigil for tonight at Drake Park from 6:30 to 7:30. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Broadman, and then after that we will open it up for a few questions and I will call on you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start by expressing my and the city's heartbreak over the events of last night. Extend our condolences to the families of the 2 people murdered in this heinous attack. We need to guard against the cynicism of thinking of these attacks on order and our peace as regular, unavoidable things. I won't accept that. I know the community of Bend won't accept that. We have to stand together. We will stand together, including tonight, and we will mourn the people who lost their lives last night. And we will do that because we know that in the face of the kind of chaos that we saw last night, we had brave first responders, brave citizens, people willing to stand up for their neighbors, and nothing illustrates Bend and Central Oregon more than that. So please, if you are struggling with what happened last night, please seek out help. We have resources set up for everybody. I want to thank our partners in law enforcement, Deschutes County Sheriff, the FBI, State Police. I want to thank Governor Brown for all of the assets that the State Police have offered to assist. And most of all, thank the Bend Police Department and our first responders, Bend Fire and Rescue, local medical professionals who responded heroically as they always do at St. Charles. And again, extend my my condolences, my deepest sadness and heartbreak to the families of the two people who lost their lives last night. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for some questions. If you would raise your hands and not shout them out, I would really appreciate it. So I'll start with the bulletin.
And you can either repeat the question or I can give this to him.
Is there any evidence of an apparent motive at this time?
The question is there any evidence of an apparent motive at this time? And I'm going to hand that to you.
The motive, we're still working through the investigative course. We won't have probably an answer to that until we are able to fully go through the material that we've located through the search warrant and any additional evidence. So at this time, we're working diligently, and that's what we talked about a couple days before we are able to really clear that scene and look through the evidence of the search warrant.
Let me go ahead and get some other people first. OPB. The question is whether we can confirm whether this person worked at the Safeway.
I should just hold this. We're unable to confirm that right now. We are still working on what are the links to the Safeway itself and why was it through the Safeway area. So that will come out in a future part of the final investigation.
Central Oregon Daily.
Describe the SWAT activity in some detail at the apartment complex, the Fox Hollow apartment complex. I understand there were some voluntary evacuations of some units. But how many search, we heard from some witnesses who say they were chased by SWAT toward apartments. Can you detail the situation?
Yeah, the question is, can we detail any information about what our CERT team or SWAT team or officers' actions took place at the Fox Hollow Apartments behind the Safeway complex? As we mentioned, the Fox Hollow Apartments were connected to this by our shooter lived in that area. We have serged a search warrant in one of the apartments where he lived. There was information early on that as the shooter left the apartment, that's when the shots began. And so that area has evidence. It required us to lock down that area for the search warrant. However, during that process is when we discovered the potential of explosives, and we requested the assistance from Oregon State Police Explosive Disposal Unit before our officers or anyone went in to conduct the search warrant. During that time, we asked an 8-unit complex to evacuate for their safety, and I'm not familiar with any information about anyone being chased.
Heather.
Can you confirm his connection to Mountain View High School and that that might have been his original target?
I think at this point I don't have the information directly connection to Mountain View High School, but what information is out there on the internet that I think a lot of people have referred to or have seen is earlier plans of some sort of attack at Mountain View High School, and that was on the internet, and we haven't really connected that yet as far as his connection.
Okay, to you.
So was that part of a manifesto that he had posted online, or what was in what he had posted online?
The question is, was that part of a manifesto or something he'd posted online?
At this point, I'm not ready to say that was directly connected with the manifesto or anything he posted online. We have that information. A lot of people have sent us follow-up information about what has been posted on social media or other outlets, and our investigators will sift through that information and make those connections if it's truly connected, and ensure that we have accurate information before we put that out.
Yes, sir.
Is there any indication on the legality of the gun sales?
The question is what the legality of the gun sales is. We're currently working with ATF to determine what the status of those guns are. Yes, sir.
Can you be more specific when you say the employee of the store engaged the shooter
Sure. The spelling of the victims to start. Glenn, Glenn, Edward, common spelling, Bennett, Bennett, 84-year-old Bend resident. He was the person who was shot near the front of the store. And the second victim is Donald, standard spelling, Ray, R-A-Y, Surratt, S-U-R-R-E-T-T, Jr., 66-year-old Bend resident. This is the Safeway employee who engaged with the shooter, which is to say he attempted to disarm the shooter and attacked this person. And we believe he prevented further deaths, that in addition to the quick police response. That those.
He did not have a firearm himself. It sounds like it was a physical altercation. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
How many people were in the Safeway at the time, and how many were assisted by the employees?
That is an excellent question. The question was how many people were in the store at the time and were assisted by employees. Do you have that information?
I do not have that information at this point exactly how many people were there. There was a lot of people coming out of the store. That's a busy area, as we all know, with a lot of shopping areas there, a lot of stores. It was a very busy parking lot at the time, 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. But I don't have the exact numbers of how many people were inside the store. I know a lot of witnesses from inside the store and in the area were sheltering in place in other stores in the area, and our investigators spoke with witnesses as throughout the night. But
Were the Safeway employees actively helping everybody get out?
that I can't tell you right now as well. I don't have that exact information.
Bola. The question was, do we have any indication of how many shots were fired in the parking lots and or in Safeway? As I mentioned, it's a very large scene, and our officers are still collecting evidence, so I don't have that number at this time. I will try to get that and include it in a press release. Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify one thing about the items you recovered. You said Molotov cocktails, ammunition, and shotgun digital devices. Where did that happen? Was that in the Safeway apartment?
The question was, where was the additional evidence recovered from? My understanding is the Molotov cocktails and the sawed-off shotgun were found in the suspect's vehicle, and the digital devices and ammo were found in the apartment. I have time for 2 more questions. Yes?
Can you confirm that the online messages that we're referring to was under a handle Wrath of Man 22?
The question is whether the messages from the suspected shooter were from a particular handle, Wrath of Man 22.
At this point, I don't have that information to confirm. We're still conducting an investigation on the digital side of this.
Okay, and last question.
How long did the shooting last in total from the beginning of the Safeway up until the end? And where was the alleged shooter found dead?
So,
Was it in the produce section?
so the question is, how long did the incident last inside of Safeway, and where was the shooter found? Our first calls from 911 and our dispatches came through at 7:04 p.m. The shooter was found deceased in the produce section at 7:08 p.m. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will send out a press release. You can reach me if you have any other questions.